Welcome to Mastering the Next, a cutting-edge podcast that explores the future of graduate, online, and non-traditional education through the lens of AI and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Ray Lutzky, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Element 451. Join me every 2 weeks for discussions with some of the thought leaders shaping the future of graduate enrollment management through technology. Mastering the Next is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that helps institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.
Managing a college's transition to new, innovative student engagement processes and tools requires careful planning and leadership. Jake Tolman is owner of Mainform Consulting, which assists higher ed organizations with project leadership, governance, and change management. He's here to help explain how your institution can usher in positive change to improve student engagement. Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ray. It's good to be here.
I always start with this question: what's next for college in terms of student engagement? Tell us how Mainform Consulting connects with that.
So Mainform Consulting is connecting with higher ed student engagement. Mainform Consulting is helping schools with their higher ed and student engagement by creating the technology that adds value. Often we see that technologies have been brought on in an ad hoc manner without much organization or leadership and strategy. And so by incorporating just a few critical thinking exercises and practices, we can create an environment where the technology is more conducive to the goals of the institution and the success of the student.
It's fascinating. I imagine you applied some best practices in your work in change management that colleges have adopted to successfully upgrade their engagement processes. What are some of those best practices? Could you provide some examples that colleges that have effectively implemented this practices?
Yes, of course, I'd be happy to. So assume resistance, right? In this changing world, especially with the advent of AI and the new technologies that are coming out, the cheese is moving for higher ed. Everyone who has built in processes, who have adopted new solutions, who have done great work, right? They have accomplished quite a bit. Their cheese is going to move. So assume some resistance, but also assume positive intent. The work that has been done for most all of these institutions, every institution that I've worked with, has been nothing short of miraculous. But what got us here isn't going to get us there. As students of a new generation change their habits from the previous generation, change their expectations, or they want something that's faster, that's more convenient, that's more personal, the things that have brought us to this point aren't going to make the cut for the next generation. And so one of the best practices that I see is it's called the ADKAR approach, ADKAR. It's an acronym, but it stands for awareness, meaning making sure that your team is aware of the change and why. Creating a desire, both a personal and a professional desire to see this change happen. Building knowledge that really addresses the ambiguity and the fear that's natural at these large changes. And then acting together. Every person being enabled and encouraged to act according to what they see as best for their respective position, and then reinforcing it with positive measures. So by following that methodology, that approach, we can create a plan for change that will enable every level of the institution to adopt and move forward in the areas that they see best according to a vision that's established with the information that's necessary.
It's a really interesting methodology. I want to double click on that for just a second and ask, in your experience working with colleges, higher education institutions, what communities on campus have the biggest trouble with that process? I can imagine, no campus is totally uniform in how it feels about change and what's in their best interest for their slice of the institution. Are there groups on campus maybe faculty that are more resistant to that process or come at it from a different point of view in your experience?
I have seen the resistance come from all sorts of angles. From the executives at the very top who don't like to see things change, to the faculty that are in the classroom for the same reasons, to the administrators and IT folks who have been married to processes or technologies and while they work in a certain way. It all comes down essentially to individual identity. As people have created these solutions and created these processes and seen them work successfully, to be told that we're going to adjust it, we're going to change it. And people have a lot of personal attachments to policies, to processes, to systems, procedures, and helping people kind of see that fear for what it is. That no, we're not coming after your job, and no, we're not negating the value that you bring. In fact, this change is going to enable each person of the organization to be more focused and more enriched in their experience and in the value they bring. By making these changes to systems, processes, and procedures and policies, then individuals are going to be able to distill their focus on what only they could do from a human element side.
It's interesting to think about that breadth of challenges across those populations when you move the cheese, as you said. Have you ever seen it go just wrong? I mean, it's so many complex pieces of a tapestry, and you pull one little thread and the whole thing comes undone. What kind of cautionary tale might you offer the listener about this process?
When I see that IT is not in the same discussions as the frontline business managers, that's a red flag for me. That's when I see that the business value isn't going to be recognized by the IT work that's being done because the IT has not been involved in the discussions that determine what that business value is. So that's one big red flag. I've often seen, not often, but at times I have seen issues where campus leadership has a wealth of impressive pedigree backgrounds, education, corporate experience, and they have wisdom, no question about it. But that wisdom, unfortunately, sometimes can lead to inflexibility. Not always. I've seen experienced leaders be front runners in new technology to the institution's great benefit. And then I've seen other leaders that say, no, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so we pick our challenges, we assess the risks, and we make the best informed decision that we can. And again, in every one of these situations, there's never been any malintent. It's just, how do we work in the new environment together?
Always good intentions. That's a really good way to look at it. So thinking about the change and how it meets this kind of resistance, how can college administrators and faculty effectively overcome this resistance? If they're working either on their own or with Mainform, how do they get those various stakeholders together during the transition to move towards those new student engagement strategies?
That's an excellent question, Ray. One thing for sure is that it never happens by accident. This takes careful, thoughtful, pragmatic approaches to ensure that the right people are at the table, that they are heard. If they are listened to, they know that their concerns have been validated and acknowledged. Half the time, the biggest battle is just making sure the other side feels heard, that their concerns are acknowledged, that they're understood all the way around. Then once that's done, okay, we can then objectify the problem. If it's a process, if it's a data point, usually it's some sort of business value. And recognizing the value that those individuals have contributed, that's very much valid and very much necessary, that it's integral to the historical success of the institution. So let's acknowledge that. And then let's say, all right, how can we make this better? What you've done is great, and what got us here isn't going to get us there. We can all change, and that's just going to be part of what we're all going to do together, but we can't change successfully without you. So please help us find the right path forward together.
It's a very diplomatic approach, and I can see why institutions would want to bring in Mainform to help them through that process, because it requires a lot of negotiation and diplomacy, it sounds like, and certainly listening. And I hope that those listening to this podcast have gotten great value out of hearing from you and your insights. So I want to thank you again, Jake, for being on the podcast and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it.
The Mastering the Next podcast is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Cadieux, J.C. Bonilla, Mallory Wilsey, Brendan Henkel, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.